listening to the Jeff Rubin Show. I'm Jeff Rubin here this week with Alex Zalben. Thanks so much for joining us today, Alex.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
You may know Alex from, I literally don't even know where to start here, Elephant Larry, which I think is one of the funniest sketch groups on the internet, which makes it one of the funniest sketch groups. And where do I go? You wrote some comic books for Marvel last year that I loved, Thor and the Warriors 4 and a Hulk vs. Dazzler team up, both of which were terrific. You write for MTV Geek. What am I missing?
I am a father of a beautiful child. Which is actually, that sounded really sketchy, but it's actually true.
No, I was getting there. I was going in priority.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess you could have gone, I ate a sandwich, I drank a thing, I breathed a little bit, and then I'm father of a child.
Alex, you are somewhat frazzled today because you are coming to us directly from some sort of Elmo toy premiere. Can we talk about that real quick?
Listen, I don't want to boast.
I don't want to get bogged down. We got a lot of comic books to talk about, but really quick at the top, let's talk about Elmo.
For MTV Geek, I was covering an event that Hasbro was throwing for their new Elmo toy. So they have, Tickle Me Elmo, right? It's the Elmo you tickle. Sure. I guess. I don't know. I just had a kid. So yeah. So they've been increasingly making it more and more complicated. The new one that they're releasing that I think is already in stores because I saw it in a store a week before this was Let's Rock Elmo, which is basically... I love the
notion. I'm into the...
Well, I think you would particularly
theme.
like it.
Yeah.
It's Rock Band Elmo. Essentially.
Rock Band the video game or Rock Band the rock band?
Well, it's supposed to be Rock Band the thing that is a rock band, but it's actually Rock Band the video game without the video game.
So it's an instrument.
They have a couple of instruments. It's an Elmo doll that moves and sings and talks. He has a microphone, he has drums, a piano, and a guitar, and you also have all of those, and you can play along with him. The weird thing about it is it does it a split second after you do. So I think it's supposed to teach children rhythm and whatnot, but it's totally off rhythm. But I went to this event that Hasbro was throwing, and I'm totally frazzled because I think it was the most anarchy I've ever seen in one place.
So they bring the kids to this too?
It's a press event, so there's people all over the place with cameras, gigantic video cameras, huge camera crews covering all this stuff, and then also there is probably 100 children of varying ages. Mine is 21 months.
Did she like Elmo?
She freaked out.
I mean, did she like rock? Everyone likes Elmo. Did she like Rock Band Elmo?
I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly think there could have been Elmo the Blob that they were selling, and it would have been the exact same thing.
So the kids loved it.
They loved it. And they had an Elmo performance. Randy Jackson was there.
Oh, cool.
And Kevin Clash, the guy who does the voice of Elmo.
Oh, I thought Randy Jackson was the guy who did the voice of Elmo. Oh, he's the guy from American Idol.
Yeah, he's the guy from American Idol. Kevin Clash is the guy who does the voice of Elmo. Kevin Clash is really funny. Most of the Puppeteers or whatever are really funny guys. So he's riffing and he's throwing out jokes when they're doing this performance. And it was really, that part was fun. The rest of it was a disaster.
It's basically like improv what they're doing. They're totally staying in character.
Yeah, absolutely. But, particularly with something like this, they do jokes for the adults as well as the kids so that the adults stay into it. So he was making jokes about calling him dog and things like that. I don't know. It was fun. I have no idea what's going on right now, though.
It's cool that Elmo technology has stayed up with the times. They didn't just leave it at Tickle Me Elmo.
I actually talked, and this was the most interesting part of the thing. They had an area blocked off for the kids to play, and it just had piles of guitars and piles of pianos and piles of Elmos, and they're just rolling all over the floor playing with the stuff. And there's this woman in a business suit standing on the side, and my wife and I ended up chatting with her, and it turns out she is the lady that develops all of these toys.
Is she insanely rich?
No, but she was super nice.
That doesn't make any sense. Because Tickle Me Elmo was the biggest thing in the world.
I didn't really want to get into that with her. It wasn't like I searched her pockets so there were gold doubloons or anything like that. But she seemed like a relatively normal person. And she was talking about, I'm already working on the thing that's 9 months down the road or something like that.
Maybe it's like The Wire, where they talk about how the guy that invented the chicken McNugget, he's not rich. It's the guy that owns McDonald's.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Well, the guy that owns McDonald's is rich. It seems like you shouldn't really have to update the Elmo doll because your daughter's 21 months old. She doesn't remember. It was 7, 8, 9 years ago Tickle Me Elmo came out. She doesn't remember that at all. You could just give her the old one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that while I was watching the show, and I really think it's just so that they can have a splash and say, this is the new hot toy. They could honestly do Tickle Me Elmo and then upside down Tickle Me Elmo, which is the same thing but packaged upside down, and sell it for twice the money, and it would be fine. But for some reason, they keep developing more toys.
Well, I can't say I'm against that. Let's move on to the reason we're here to talk today, the new DC 52.
Yeah.
DC Comics is rebooting all of their comic books.
They're relaunching.
Is that
relaunching?
They draw that distinction?
They are very careful to say that. Everybody who says
carries
reboot,
a lot of luggage these days.
Right. Well, positive luggage is the weird part.
Yes, but not always.
Is there a bad reboot? Batman Begins. That was a good.
That
reboot.
was good. There must be bad ones. That new Spider-Man looks pretty iffy.
Yeah. What does it look like? Mirror's Edge?
Yeah, it looks like the video game Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
But Pat, who I work with, and we had an episode where we talked about summer movies together, and you know Pat.
Yeah.
And he was like, it even has the same color palette as the other Spider-Man. And like the same shot of him at the mirror. Like,
oh, totally.
What is going on with my body? Like, it looks exactly the same.
Right.
Anyway, DC is relaunching all of their comic books. Mm-hmm. And it's always a little hard for people that I think that don't read comic books to kind of parse out what's actually big comic book news. Because the media, I think, is bad at figuring that out. Like when Captain America died, it was like on the news that Captain America was going to die. But if you read comics, you're like, you know that's not really a big deal.
Yeah. Well, that was all right. Oh, well, I'm gonna go with your thesis. I'm gonna go with your thesis.
You keep poking holes in it. So, how big a deal is it that they're relaunching this? What's going on?
It is interesting that you gave the distinction between outside comic book fans and inside comic book fans, because as an inside comic book fan, I don't know. To me, it's everybody has been freaking out about it for months at this point.
Let's explain the difference there. I would consider myself an outside comic book fan. I read a handful of graphic novels every year. If I hear something's good, I'll pick it up. But you are, correct me if I'm wrong, you're at the comic book store every Wednesday.
Yeah, every Wednesday I read, honestly, for my job and no longer for pleasure because it's not pleasurable anymore. But I read pretty much everything. You know, most of the Marvel stuff, most of the DC stuff. I stay on top of the news. I'm checking comic book sites or writing for comic book sites pretty much all day long. So, yeah, I'm an insider.
My comic book level of fandom is that I know new comic books come out on Wednesday, but I'm not actually there. But I'm at least aware of that.
Right. You're actually one up on most people who don't know that there are comic book stores.
Poor, pathetic bastards. I don't know how they get through it. So DC is relaunching everything. And basically what that means is they're resetting all their comic books back to issue 1 and resetting the universe that the characters live in. They basically all never met. And that's something DC has done. This is not uncommon for DC. They did it. The big one is Crisis on Infinite Earths in the 80s. Then they did 0 Hour in the 90s, which is kind of when I was like, that was my prime comic book time. It was like 1994 or so. And they did it again. I don't know how big a reboot it was because I haven't kept up with it recently, but they did Final Crisis. So this is just kind of another one of those. This is not unprecedented.
I'm trying to think about what is actually unprecedented about it when you put it like that.
Well, here's what I think's new is they're resetting all the numbers, which I feel like it almost reaches, because the numbers don't actually have any meaning within the storyline. That's just to help us actual people keep our comic books organized. So they are reaching into actual reality, into like our lives, and being like, no, this affects the world you live in.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how businessy you want to get about this, but there's two really big things about it that are the most boring things to talk about. The exciting things are Harley Quinn looks like a slut now. Let's talk about that.
Oh, I hate that. I love Arkham Asylum, but I hate the character design. I hate that they redesigned it to look like
the
that.
Worst. It's terrible. We were talking about actually dressing up my daughter as Harley Quinn for New York Comic Con or Halloween or something like that because she has these pigtails. And then I was saying we should probably dress her up in the new Arkham Asylum costume.
Kevin Smith named his daughter Harley Quinn. How do you think he feels?
Probably pretty good right now. I don't know what that means. That came off real sketchy. The two businessy things, though, is launching 52 new comic books. I've actually heard somebody kind of put it like this. Imagine if Apple said, hey, we're going to launch 52 new products this month, and you have to buy all of them.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented. Nobody would say, hey, buy 52 new cars. You might see 52 new movies in a month, but not from one company. So it's a very...
Even 52 new movies is almost 2 movies
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot of movies.
And they all have they reshuffled all the creative team. There's still Superman, but it's not being written by the guy that wrote Superman 6 months ago.
With some exceptions. I mean, there's some things like Scott Snyder, who was writing Batman Detective Comics, is now writing Batman #1, which is actually a different title, if you can believe that.
Right.
But, for the most part, there's some new people. Some people are moving around. Some of the characters have changed, things like that. If you look at it from a business perspective, trying to launch 52 new titles in 1 month is kind of unprecedented from an editorial standpoint, which is, again, not the most exciting thing, but I don't envy the people in DC. The other thing that's actually really exciting about it, and the bigger news that nobody in the media or anything is really talking about, is their 52 new titles are also being launched on the same day digitally as they are on print. So for those of you who don't necessarily know about the comic book industry, they've been very slowly moving towards it, not learning lessons of the music industry or the movie industry or anything like that. Very worried about piracy, and rightfully so. There's a lot of scanning going on. But at the same time, other than, I think Archie Comics is all digital, some of the smaller publishers like IDW and maybe Dark Horse are doing digital as well on different schedules.
So there's like the major labels, like Warner Brothers, when they finally...
Yeah, exactly. And it's Marvel has been pushing into it, but this is DC saying, okay, you know what, we're all in, which is kind of a big deal.
Both those things are really interesting. I want to talk about both of them. The business thing first, because I think this is something comics and pro wrestling have in common, where you can't talk about the storylines and the fiction of the world without also kind of knowing and appreciating the business reasons things are going on.
Yeah.
In pro wrestling, you'll see this guy's getting a push. Oh, this guy... They're all mad at him, and you kind of follow the behind-the-scenes thing. Here, the DC Universe was reset because Flash did something, but everyone really knows what's going on here is that it's actually business reasons, especially the comic book people that actually followed the Flash something.
Yeah. Did you read Flashpoint #5?
I want to talk about this, because I did not read any of the stuff that led up to this big reset. What's been going on is Flashpoint, this comic that centers around the Flash. And I went to Wikipedia because I was like, let me just catch up on Flashpoint real quick, see what's going on. Let me read to you what is on the Wikipedia page for Flashpoint. This is an excerpt. And I love Wikipedia. I read Wikipedias about comic book characters and plot lines all the time. So brave Wikipedia editors who do that, God bless you. I love your work. I appreciate it way too much. So here is what but this Flashpoint page is a little iffy. Here is what it says. This is a direct quote. And this is down the page, but... All right, here we go. Reverse Flash reveals to Barry, I know that's Barry Allen, the original Flash who's been dead since the 80s Crisis on Infinite Earth. Yep. Reverse Flash, which kind of makes sense to me. Reverse Flash reveals to Barry that the Flashpoint timeline was actually created by Barry himself after he traveled back in time to stop Thwayne from killing his mother on her first birthday, since he discovered Zoom had killed his mother. Barry pulled the entire Speed Force into himself to stop Zoom, transforming the timeline. He resets Barry's internal vibrations, enabling him to remember this. I'm like, remember what? What's going on? According to Zoom, these actions transformed him into a living paradox, no longer requiring Barry to exist and allowing him to kill the Flash without erasing his own existence.
I read the book. I didn't understand that, and now I understand it less.
There's parts of that like makes more sense to me than I think it would to most people, which is my fault. I know who Reverse Flash... Is Reverse Flash and Professor Zoom one dude?
Yeah, that's... his name is Eobard Thawne.
Oh, and he's Thawne?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I was reading
They're
this paragraph,
all the same guy.
I at least recognize these characters, and I saw Thawne. And I see like internal vibrations. I know that's a thing with Flash, is that he can like vibrate to change his
frequency
thing. So Flashpoint, what happened here? Do I even need to understand what happened here to appreciate the new stuff?
Unfortunately, a little bit. Okay, you were talking about the behind-the-scenes thing. Flashpoint, you really only needed to read the first issue and the fifth issue. The rest of it was just basically filler. All of the miniseries were filler. Nothing was really worth it there. The thing you need to understand, and there's this weird, you were talking about the behind-the-scenes stuff and with the editors, and there's this weird metatextual thing that happens towards the end of Flashpoint #5. So just to boil it down, basically it turns out you think you're reading the series the entire time. You think Reverse Flash, the evil Flash, is the guy who created this terrible new timeline.
Got it.
Turns out
Reverse Flash, by the way, is Flash in yellow.
Yes, it's not actually him running backwards.
So what happened?
Yeah. So it's actually Flash does it. He goes to fix his mistake and fix the timeline. He's lost some of his memories, so he kind of remembers things a little bit incorrectly. And as he's running as fast as he can to fix the timeline, there's this weird lady in a pink cloak with lines on her face who appears in a double-page splash and says, "Run, Barry, run it." I'm paraphrasing here, but "Run, Barry, run as fast as you possibly can to fix the timelines. You must get the prepared. All the 3 timelines must be joined together to prepare for their coming. They broke it apart long ago, and now you must fix it." And so he fixes the timeline. This is the reason everything is kind of the same. Some of the stuff is the same and some of the stuff is different because Barry Allen basically remembered things slightly correctly. Like he remembered Harley Quinn having less clothes, so she has less clothes, that sort of thing.
And this is Barry Allen Flash.
Exactly.
Barry Allen Flash, who had been dead for the majority of my comic book reading life.
Yes.
He's been dead since the 80s, and they more or less respected that until now.
Right. You should also, it's interesting that he ends up, he was probably in his 30s or 40s when he is in Flashpoint. He kind of remembers himself as being in his 20s and without a wife, so that's his new status quo, so that's kind of interesting as well. But the reason I bring this up is in every single one of the new 52 issues, there's an Easter egg of this pink lady in a robe standing in the background somewhere in every single one of the issues. And so there's 2 things going on here. One, they're building up to their new crossover that's going to probably happen in about a year's time, which is crazy that they're doing that already. The other thing, the breaking apart of the 3 timelines, which is getting really wonky here, and this is the behind-the-scenes stuff. The 3 timelines are, ready? They are the DC universe, the Vertigo universe, and the Wildstorm universe.
Okay.
Yes.
So those are the 3 imprints that all are published by DC Comics. The Wildstorm they acquired, so that was its own separate continuity, and Vertigo was kind of their mature reader line,
right?
Which, for some odd reason, didn't want to be tied to the DC universe every time Flash ran back and decided to reset things. For some strange reason, Neil Gaiman couldn't write Sandman around that, so he had to create his own continuity, the Vertigo universe. So those are the 3 timelines. Now DC, for business reasons, is
that's the weird metatextual thing, is they have this text saying, essentially, hey, we made a mistake. We made a huge mistake. Let's put these timelines back together. The 3 people ruined it. And if you really want to look into it, and I'm sure they didn't mean this, but the 3 people are Karen Berger, who's the publisher of Vertigo Comics, Paul Levitz, who basically was behind the stuff at DC Comics, and weirdly, Jim Lee, who is behind Wildstorm Comics and is also the architect behind fixing this. So basically they're saying, well, it was their fault, but also I'm going to come in and fix it. So that's getting very wonky, but that's really the behind-the-scenes stuff of what they're saying is, we made a mistake long ago, let's bring this stuff together, and then, hey, buy 52 Comics at the end.
If I could speak to the people that create DC Comics, I would ask them, why don't you just write a fucking comic book? Like, I don't need any of that, you know? Like, why have this whole convoluted Flash thing? Marvel seems to get away with it. What's the difference between DC's approach and Marvel's approach?
The big difference is that DC, at least up until now, and I don't know if it's going to change, I don't know if part of this new 52 thing is they're not doing this anymore, is they're very into honoring the continuity. Everything counts all the time. Marvel's philosophy, on the other hand, is, it only counts if we want it to. And that drives fans up the wall sometimes, but Marvel, I think, actually understands that comic book fans are going to buy comics regardless. They're into comics. Yeah. So if they say, oh, now Wolverine doesn't have a head, you know, as long as they give some sort of reason for it, fans are going to freak out. They'll get totally upset. Look at Spider-Man. There's the whole thing where Spider-Man, a couple of years ago, sold his marriage to the devil. And then he wasn't married anymore.
Why didn't they make him that the 4th movie?
It was not a great storyline.
Yeah.
It was not even my favorite storyline ever. But after that, they said, okay, we did that. Now we're going to write some good Spider-Man comic books.
And they rebooted it.
Yeah.
Because once Spider-Man selling his marriage to the devil, like, that's kind of the end of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I get the temptation to reboot things. Like, I understand why they do it in movies and in video games. But when Marvel did it, it seems like they did it with that Marvel Ultimate Universe, where they created a separate... I can't believe I'm saying this is a preferable solution. They're suggesting, like, why don't they just keep it simple like Marvel? Marvel created an alternate universe called the Ultimate Universe, and they do Ultimate Spider-Man, which was kind of their opportunity to, like, start Spider-Man over if it was happening today, and they did Ultimate Iron Man or whatever. They did all of them, and they're great. And that seems like that was their way to reboot it, whereas DC is kind of throwing out their continuity.
A little bit. I think the problem is actually that they're honoring the continuity too much. They're sort of Batman, all the Batman line pretty much is the same. There's some little changes here and there, but Batman is pretty much the same. Green Lantern is pretty much the same.
They are publishing like 16 fucking Batman comic books.
It's crazy.
There is Batman. There is The Dark Knight. Detective Comics, of course. Then there's Batman and Robin. Then there's Batgirl. Then there's Batwoman. Then there's Catwoman. Then there's Batwing. These are all real. I'm not making these up. These are real things.
Yeah, there's an insane amount of Batman comics because Batman comics were selling. That's the thing, is before this, again, getting to the
I'm not surprised. Batman's really cool.
Yeah, he's a good character. The rest of the characters are kind of dumb. On the other hand, if you look at the Superman comic books, Superman is now much younger, and this is probably the second most controversial thing in the DC relaunch after what's going on with Wonder Woman's pants, which we could probably get to in a second. Superman is now wearing Kryptonian battle armor, which I don't know if this is
very controversial.
Very controversial. There was some comment. Scott Kurtz, the guy who does PvP, was saying, "I can't think of a character who needs battle armor less than Superman," which is totally fair. I think
he's got you there, Kal-El.
Yeah.
It seems to me like the fans are almost who decides what stays in the continuity, because Barbara Gordon, for instance, got shot. She was Batgirl, Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She got shot by the Joker, and she was crippled in a wheelchair. And obviously, they could uncripple Barbara Gordon. Like, they uncrippled Batman or anyone else. There's fucking, like, wizards out there. They can do whatever they want. But because that happened in The Killing Joke by Alan Moore, which everyone loved and read, they kind of stuck with that, the idea that, like, no, that actually happened. The fans just responded so much to that story.
Did you read Batgirl #1?
I did read Batgirl #1 by Gail Simone.
Yeah. What did you think of Batgirl #1?
It's hard to I mean, I read like 10 or 11 of these, which is I spent like $30 or $40 at the comic book on comic, which is a lot. And I'm now realizing I only read a fifth of them. Batgirl was okay. Let me think. I'm not very good. It's so hard to, because I've been reading graphic novels. It's like watching TV by seasons and then having to judge the first episode.
This is like watching the first 10 minutes of Lost and then saying, yeah, that was amazing.
She was a little carefree, I guess, she seemed very rambunctious. And I didn't like, because I liked The Killing Joke and I liked what they did with Barbara Gordon, kind of making her like Oracle. I thought that was really interesting. So I did resent it from the get-go because I felt like they were undoing something interesting.
Yeah, I think that's been the general fan reaction. I mean, I feel, this is going to come out wrong, I feel a little bad for Gail Simone, who I love. She is one of my favorite writers. She's so funny. She's awesome. She's a super nice person as well. But the thing about it was Oracle was a really interesting character. It was a disabled character in a wheelchair she was just in a wheelchair.
And she used to be Batgirl. It wasn't just that. Like, it had
right. And she was a different character. She was a unique character. She made her mark on the comic book universe. And it's very rare now. I mean, again, outside comic book fans might not know this, but it's very rare that you can create a new character and it will stick. There's not that many of them. Yeah. And granted,
that's why they have 13 Batman comics.
Right, exactly. Or Batman, but he is in the Congo or whatever, which wasn't that bad, by the way. But it was a little uncomfortable to read. It was tough to read. She did the best with what she was given, but changing Barbara Gordon back to Batgirl after you've had, there's about 20 years of continuity where she's grown and changed as a character and really become more interesting and more fascinating as a character, then say, nope, she's not quite as smart and she's back in time and she doesn't know what she's doing is a little insulting. And
I thought was really insulting, but now you're like, I'm mad at that. Particularly didn't like about that was they acknowledged The Killing Joke, because she's like, no, I still got surprised at the door and shot by the Joker, but I recovered from it. So they kind of closed the door on it eventually happening too. Right. They were like, this is not Barbara Gordon anymore.
It's kind of what you were saying. I wish they had just wiped it clean. I wish they had just said, if they wanted Barbara Gordon to be Batgirl, which clearly they did because I think that was the Batgirl that was in the Batman TV show, because we're trying to appeal to people
definitely.
that watch the Adam West Batman from the 1960s.
Well, she was on the cartoon, too.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not that much, but she was there.
All right. Well, if people remember that. I mean, same thing. Why don't you have Jon Stewart as Green Lantern? Because people remember that from Justice League Unlimited, right? No.
Yes. Well, first of all, in their defense, Batman the Animated Series is like the definitive Batman for me.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the comic books, that's why I love Batman so much. And Justice League Unlimited also pretty good. I don't have the excuse of watching that when I was a kid. I caught up with it all pretty recently.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
It's really good. This is a little bit of a side topic, but I don't know if you heard this. When the Green Lantern movie was coming out, people were really upset that Jon Stewart wasn't the Green Lantern. They were saying, wow, this is so racist. They make a movie and Green Lantern suddenly isn't black anymore, which I thought was really kind of interesting and made me think, well, I guess they probably should have made it Jon Stewart. That's what people know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way because I loved Green Lantern growing up, and I've talked about this before on the show, and Hal Jordan was my dude. So like when they put Jon Stewart on, I was like, oh, well, where'd Hal Jordan go? Not in an anti-affirmative action kind of way. I recognize that was their best black character to put on Justice League Unlimited. I know how Hawkgirl made the cut too, but
Hawkgirl's pretty cool.
But that's interesting that they did that. Actually, now that we're talking about Green Lantern,
yeah,
this is a tangent on a tangent. You like the Green Lantern movie. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yes, I did. What's going on there? I haven't gotten flack about it in person, I think, yet. But on a whole, it was not a great movie.
You tweeted that you liked it, and I took the rare step of being like, what the fuck?
It was not good, but I had fun watching it. I think that's what I'd say. In particular, I thought the final fight, the last 15 minutes or so, was totally fun. This is a complete spoiler for the end of the movie. I can't get too mad at a movie where there's a guy using green energy to create 2 fighter planes in space so that he can throw a giant tentacle monster with a head into the sun. That's just kind of cool.
Yeah, there was his lantern power. Oh God! All right, I don't want to get into it. I can't. It was
a terrible movie. It's not a good movie. I had fun, particularly the space stuff I thought was fun, and I think it was very kid-oriented.
My problem with that statement is there are tons of movies, especially comic movies, that I think are bad, but I had fun watching, and I'd even put Green Lantern below that. I did not have fun watching it.
I'm sorry.
Ghost Rider, for instance, is terrible, but to be honest, I kind of enjoyed Ghost Rider.
Okay, sure. I mean, the stuff on Earth, the Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds stuff, was some of the worst scenes, some of the worst edited scenes I've ever seen. There was that thing where they're talking on the rooftop, and they're just sort of chatting on the rooftop and having a good time. And she's saying, oh, Hal, I'm so glad you're back, or whatever. And then it cuts to them flying down on the balcony. And she says something like, never talk to me again. And then she's crying and running away from him. And clearly there was about 30 minutes that happened in there that they just cut out. I mean, thankfully.
Let's get back on track here. I want to talk about the digital sales aspect of this.
Oh, sure.
Because I went to a comic book store to buy these. Like I said, I don't go to the comic book store regularly. And I went to Forbidden Planet in Union Square here in New York. Great comic book store. Love going there.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the single comic books, and it was mostly Marvel stuff. And I was thinking, oh, this must be the Marvel section. And I went and I asked the guy who worked there. I was like, hey, I'm looking for some of the DC reboot. He flipped out because I said reboot instead of relaunch. He did not do that. I was like, hey, I'm looking for some of those DC new comic books. And he was like, oh, we sold out of those. First of all, I feel like a total fucking noob, I'm so embarrassed I walked in there and just assumed that they'd have it.
No, this is the thing that's actually kind of crazy about this and nobody really saw coming. Everybody was wondering, okay, is this going to be successful? Is this going to be unsuccessful? There was news that came out, I think, at this point, probably about a month ago or something like that, of the initial sales. And again, this is getting into things that people outside of comics would have no idea about necessarily, but Justice League #1, which was the first launch title, reportedly, according to DC, sold over 200,000 copies. Then there were 6 or 7 other titles that sold over 100,000 copies. Since then, new figures have come out where there's a bunch of titles that have sold over 100,000 copies. The reason, first of all, that's a big deal is because there has been no comic book that has sold that much since 2008, I think. And in general, over the past year, the top-selling comic book has been below 100,000 copies, which is not a lot. And it's been going down pretty drastically, pretty rapidly. And that's only the top comic books. You look at the top comic book, hey, it's 100,000. And then the next comic book sometimes will be 70,000 or 60,000 or 50,000. Comics are just not selling well. So to have 6 or 7 or 8 titles that are above 100,000 is a huge deal already. The reason it's sort of a caveat huge deal, and this is we're getting really technical, is the sales figures are not actually people buying stuff. They're comic book stores buying stuff, because the archaic way that comic books are sold is that the comic book stores will place orders 3 months in advance, assuming how much people are going to want to buy. So they're basically doubling down. They're placing a bet. They're saying, okay, you know what? Across the country, 200,000 people are going to want to buy Justice League #1. We think that's what's going to happen. Most of the time, this gets into an area which I don't know as much about, but some comic books are returnable, some are not, most of them aren't, which means you're stuck with the copies, and that's why you say, hey, 25 cents for a comic, isn't that exciting? The thing that happened here is those titles all sold out, which is crazy. And then everybody had to go back and reorder them. So now Justice League, at the same time, released both a second and a third printing, which never happens. Every single title from week 1 had a second printing. Every single title at the week 2, I think, had a second printing. And I think the same things are probably going to happen for week 3, which is coming up, and also week 4.
So what you're saying is, if I have a first printing, I can stop working. I'm going to be rich.
You're done.
That's
you are
it.
done. That, and if you have a copy of Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1, golden.
Throw it in a Mylar bag.
Please.
Just
You're going to do great.
move to the beach.
Yes.
That's not what I do. That's the opposite of what I do.
Move to the beach, read your comic books, and have a nice time. So that was getting really technical and really
No,
into
that's
the business
interesting, because
side,
I didn't even... I just thought, oh, I'll swing by the
Right.
comic book store and pick up some comic books. It didn't even occur to me that they might be sold out.
Well, the thing that, to sort of sum it up, the thing about it is nobody expected they would sell out. I'm sure Forbidden Planet did not expect they sell out. That's actually not a good thing to happen. They don't think, hey, this is great. We don't have product to sell. They want to have the product to sell. So that means they actually under-ordered. So they're going to have to order again, and then they potentially, in fact, probably lost sales from you and probably from a lot of other people who went in expecting it to be there. And hopefully some of those people will come back and buy them when they get a second or third printing, but probably not as many.
So what I did was I remembered reading that now these are all day and date digitally online, and I have an iPad, so I thought, I'm going to buy these on the iPad. And I thought that was a really interesting experience, because I was reading these not only relaunched comics, but I was reading them in this completely new way. And it really is an interesting new way of reading comics. First of all, they cost the exact same amount they do in stores.
Yeah, that sucks.
They got to figure that out, because, it's not, I can't collect it and get rich later. I can't loan it to my friend because it's on my iPad, and I can't bear to be apart from that for over an hour.
You can print it out the bottom of the iPad, right? I don't have an iPad, so I'm not quite sure how that works.
So they got to figure out the pricing, because it did feel a little expensive. I enjoyed reading them, but it felt like, you got to figure out a discount there. But then I realized that if they do that, they might have a problem. I'm assuming this is something of a battle between them and the comic book stores. They can't undercut the comic book stores, right?
Oh, yeah. And, that worked out really nicely for things like iTunes and record stores. So, they got to make sure to honor things, the brick-and-mortar stores.
Comic book stores, I'm assuming, as comic book sales have dropped,
yes.
they're in...
No. Everybody knows this. It's exactly like... Comic book fans are all well aware. There's some comic book fans that are, no, I will always support the printed copy. No, that's the way to read it.
It's the same way with music.
Digital. It's the same thing with music.
People are always going to support the local record store.
Right, but the local record store, not solve the problem, but the local record stores that made themselves a destination and went for something different rather than the Tower Records or whatever, are the ones that are still doing okay.
Yeah, a lot of local record stores still went out of business.
Right. No, I'm sure they're doing great. I'm sure music is doing great. Everything's fine.
It seems like comic book stores... There's so much potential there, because nerddom is so much bigger than it ever was before. And the reason I like going to Midtown Comics, and I always like going to any comic book store, really, isn't just the comic books, because I don't buy comic books regularly, but they always have other cool nerd stuff, statues and action figures and board games. And I feel like there's just so much nerd passion for these things that has never existed before. Nerddom's never been bigger. And I feel like if they can't somehow harness that, then... those are going to be the ones that go the way of Tower Records.
Yeah. Well, it's broken down into places, not to just talk about the New York stores, but we kind of run the gamut here. It's places like Midtown Comics do great because they have friendly, knowledgeable staff. They're nice, they're clean, they have big windows. You can go in there, actually find what you're looking for.
Get a comic on the way to the train station.
Exactly. Pick up some, falafel at Mo's is downstairs. It's delightful. Or you can go to the Burger King Whopper bar across the street and get a gourmet Whopper.
You got it all in New York.
Yes. Or there's places in, I don't know if you've been to Bergen Street Comics in Brooklyn.
I have, yeah.
Which is the opposite end of the spectrum. It really caters towards indie stuff. They have the current stuff as well, but they've made themselves a destination. By this Saturday, I think they're having a event for Cliff Chiang, who's the artist on Wonder Woman, lives here, so they're showing off his art and having a cocktail reception. So they do stuff like that all the time. So those two aspects, those two ends, the big, nice stores that actually have everything you need and the little indie stores that cater towards community are doing really well. Everything in the middle is dusty and cranky and no good.
Do you think there's maybe a thing kind of like Spotify or Napster when Napster rebranded themselves, let's say like a Spotify,
sure,
for comic books where I could pay, because I wouldn't mind paying a monthly fee to read all the comics, but buying them $3 or $4 at a time on my iPad is just not going to work.
It totally comes down to the physical stores having problems. That's where a lot of their business comes from. Digital sales are not as big nearly as physical sales. Physical sales.
Well, that'll last forever.
Right, I know. It's.
I didn't realize that physical sales were more than digital sales. I'm sure that will just remain that way for the end of time.
Yeah, they got to cut the price down. They got to make it easier. One thing that they actually just introduced this week, which is kind of cool, they've been playing around, at least Comixology, which is sort of the major provider of this stuff, has been playing around with doing collections. So they released Planetary, which is a series from Wildstorm, which is an awesome series. They released an omnibus. So yeah, it was the full price. But I think it came down to like $1 or $2 per comic for 28 issues, which totally was fine. I was cool with that.
I noticed that they sell a lot of old comics, at least in the DC app too. And credit to DC, like I guess they got me in their app. I wasn't in the Marvel one.
Yeah.
And they sell a lot of all-star comics, just really old stuff. But no matter what, it's $2.99, $3.99.
It's too much money.
Stuff you'd see for like a quarter in the store. And if they sold a bunch of those for $1, no one's buying anyway. I'd totally buy them and read 100 issues of them.
They're learning. They're figuring it out and they're learning. Like I was saying, actually, the Marvel has started releasing trades, at least, so you can buy things as a bundle for less money.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it worked in physical stores, too. When they went into graphic novels, they found this whole new market.
Yeah, DC also put on their app a bunch of kids' comics for free.
I noticed that,
which is super smart.
Yes, I happened to notice that.
I happened to notice and read Billy Batson and the Magic of Shazam. Yeah, which is good. They should be doing way more stuff like that, but we're weirdly, given the fact that the internet has been around for so long, in the dawn of the digital age for comic books.
The other interesting thing about buying them on the iPad is that the iPad is not as large as a comic book. The screen's a little smaller than a comic book would be. So if you just look at the full image at once, it doesn't really work. Not only are you missing some detail, but the text is just flat out illegible. So they came up with this thing called guided view, where you kind of double tap on a panel and then you zoom in and then you swipe and it kind of pans over to the next panel. And I thought it was really interesting. Have you seen this?
I've read it on my iPhone, but I don't have an iPad, so I've looked at other people's. I don't know if it's a significantly different experience.
I almost want to pull it up for you because there are times where it really changes the timing. Yeah. Like you'll go to a panel, you turn the page and you see a close-up of Superman's face and some text. And then you swipe to go to the next panel, and it pans out. And you're seeing the whole... It's actually a full-page splash with Superman standing over everyone. And if you're reading the actual comic book, you'd see that splash first. So zooming in on his face really changes the timing of the comic.
I don't want to do too much plugging, but Thor and the Warriors 4... the comic book that I wrote.
Which I love. I say it every time I see you. I'm embarrassed. That's why I'm not going to talk about it so much, but I thought it was so great.
That actually is on Comixology, on either the Comixology app or the Marvel app. And, not that I spend a lot of time reading my own comic book, but once they put it on, I did look through it. And it's, I spent a lot of time figuring out the pace of the pages when I was writing the book. And I knew, okay, somebody's going to flip here and this is what they'll see. And, there's going to be 4 panels on the page and that's going to break it up in a different way from the full page splash. Looking at it, for the most part on Comixology, it worked, but there were some things that were paced totally wrong.
And your comic's funny, too. And
Thanks.
timing is...
And that's not their
comedy.
fault, because that's the guys in Comixology. They do a really good job. They get sent the print comics, and they have to digitalize them and paste them out. Paste them out? I was not paste them out. So it's not their fault. It's just like you're saying, it's a totally different experience.
Let me show you this one.
Yeah.
This is in Justice League, which was kind of the premiere title. So over here, we're looking at a panel of Batman. He seems to be looking up at something.
Most people download podcasts so they can have comic books described to them.
Comic books for blind people. Yeah. And all right, Batman's there's a shoe in the foreground. I don't know who this is. And the person's saying, "I don't handle easy." And then we turn the panel, and we got a close up of, oh, it's Superman. He's saying, "So, what can you do?" But then you go to the next panel, and it pans out, and now you're seeing this full page impressive Superman splash, and it changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think so, particularly because in that issue, flipping to that page to the full page splash at the end is awesome.
That's why they call it a splash.
Right, exactly, because it hits you with everything at once.
So who is doing that? Whose job is that?
It's the guys at Comixology. They make a decision. I'm sure they do it with DC or whichever publisher. They probably have to pass it by them first, but it focuses it, like you were saying, the text isn't as readable on that full page as it is close up. So they're probably erring on the side of, okay, you want to read the dialogue and then you want to look at the pictures.
I feel like if we're crediting the letterer, we got to be crediting the guy who does this. You're seeing the whole comic kind of through his eyes.
They should. They should credit Barry at Comixology for doing this. His name's not Barry.
But it seems like as digital sales increase, and this becomes the way more and more people are reading comics, which is, over a long enough timeline is inevitable, that's going to have to be someone's job, because it's an important piece of reading the comic.
Well, what's going to happen, or what actually is happening right now, is people and publishers are both creating directly for the digital platform. There was a comic book by two guys named David Gallagher and Steve Ellis called Box 13 that was released specifically for Comixology, and it worked for Comixology. They were aware that, hey, you're only looking at it potentially one panel at a time, so they paced it out that way. There's another book that's coming out right now by an artist named Riley Brown, and another guy I'm blanking on the name of, called Power Play, that's also for Comixology, and it's awesome. It's about this extreme superpowered sports league in Brooklyn, and Riley Brown draws fantastic. He's a great artist, does good stuff. It's really fun. It's really funny, but they knew they were releasing it digitally. So there's almost anime-esque things where you'll see a panel of a character striking a pose with speed lines behind him, and then you'll press forward for the next panel, and the stats of the character will pop up. So it paces out that way.
You're using the medium to do
Exactly.
something new.
And I don't know how true this is. I have heard rumors that both DC and Marvel are experimenting with moving forward with digital-only comics that then later will be... I mean, they've done this a little bit. Marvel did this. There was a collection called Spider Island, I Love New York City, that had 3 stories that were released digitally, and then they packaged it up as a pamphlet and then published it that way. So hopefully we're going to see more of that.
Let's talk about, what it's really all about in the end. The comic books themselves.
Yes.
So
No, let's keep talking about business.
that's what everyone came here for. We covered some Batman stuff. What did you think of Justice League? Because Justice League was drawn by Jim Lee. It was written by Jeff Johns, who I believe had done the whole Flashpoint thing too, correct?
No, that was Andy Kubert.
Anyway, Jeff Johns, one of the top guys.
Oh, Jeff Johns wrote it, yes.
Yeah. Justice League, this is all the big characters. You got Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Batman.
Not in the first issue.
And the first issue is only a few of them. But then there's Cyborg. So you got Green Lantern, Flash, all these people you know and love, and Cyborg. Who did Cyborg have to blow to get on the Justice League here?
Jeff Johns.
Why?
Everybody has their favorite characters, particularly with the Justice League. There's Justice League or Avengers. There's always one character that whoever is writing it says, I got to get this guy in. I've always loved Rom the Space Knight. He has to be on the Avengers or something like that.
And Cyborg has gains. He's Q level's rising. He's on the Teen Titans and
Sure, I think that might be a part of it. The Teen Titans cartoon was super popular, so bringing in that character might be good. And the way that they positioned him recently is that he's the old guy who's kind of still hanging around with the Teen Titans, who's not a teen anymore. So maybe to make him less creepy, they put him on the Justice League.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What do you think of the comic?
I liked it. I thought it was fun. You know, I've read a lot of complaints, and it's totally fair that it's completely decompressed. You know, it's just Batman, and then Green Lantern shows up, and we've already talked about it, but Superman shows up at the end, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But I thought the art was good, and I liked, you know, hey, they're fighting a spider robot. So again, I feel like I'm making myself content when I sound totally dumb this episode.
That's what comic books are.
Yeah, but I thought it was fun. What did you think of it?
I liked it. I was surprised how much they were rebooting the DC universe, or relaunching it, because people are like, oh, did you hear about this guy in a cape in Metropolis? And I was like, holy shit, we're really starting from scratch here.
This is not to, well, I'm only going to mention this briefly because we really should talk about the actual comics, but this is the other confusing thing. Justice League is actually what DC has called year one. It takes place 1 year into the new DC
because
timeline.
Superman's not even flying, right?
Right. Superman in Action Comics is year zero. Basically, here's the timeline, right? Batman's been working in secret for a really long time. That explains why he has a 10-year-old son who is his Robin.
Batman has a 10-year-old son who's Robin?
Yeah.
What?
I know. They have screwed up some.
I read like 4 of the Batman comics, and I didn't even get that.
Yeah,
I read Detective Comics and Batgirl.
Well, he has 4 Robins. He's been going
busy.
on for a while. This is, again, because Batman was selling really well. They kept it with all the stuff. But Batman's been operating in secret for a while. He's kind of an urban legend, kind of like how he is in the movies. They tried to align it as much of there as possible.
Yeah, I noticed the cops were really against Batman, very much like...
which is...
Probably, it makes a lot of sense to incorporate what
Yeah,
Christopher
it's
Nolan did
exactly from The Dark Knight, and I think from the video games as well, from Arkham Asylum. Aren't they kind of working against him?
No, I think he actually is working with the cops in
They
that.
kiss a lot and whatever. in the
Yeah,
games.
I do think in Arkham Asylum, which is the first, Arkham Asylum's the first one. Arkham City's coming out soon, and I'm unbelievably excited for it. They may change in that one, but I think in the first one you're working with the cops pretty much.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have a guy coming on the show in a few weeks who did his PhD on Batman. He wrote his thesis on Batman.
Did he call it Batmanology?
I want to call him Dr. Batman.
You should.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how he likes
You
that.
should kill his parents and see what he thinks about that. But, so Action Comics is year zero because the idea is Superman is the first public superhero. He's the first person that sort of comes out in public. Justice League takes place 1 year after that. Every other title takes place in year 5.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's totally confusing,
And this is their welcome new readers package.
Yes. Oh, I know. Not only that, but there's a new book that's coming out this week, Superman #1, which is different from Superman Action Comics #1, which takes place in year 5. So there's actually a year zero Superman and a year 5 Superman that are coming out at the same time, plus the year 1 Superman that's coming out in Justice League.
Here, restarting the numbers, it doesn't bother me that much, but I feel like with Action Comics and with Detective Comics, that's a big deal because this is the first time comics start and stop all the time for whatever reason over however long. But Action Comics and Detective Comics have been running forever. Like, you know how old Spider-Man is? You know, everyone pretty much knows who Spider-Man is. Superman, he's 30 years older than that. It's been around forever. And I feel like restarting that, they were gonna hit. I remember seeing 700 come out when I was really into comics, and 800 come out recently. I think that was kind of cool if they get to 1,000 comics and restarting it. I know it doesn't really matter, but it feels like they're, that's a big card to throw down.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So they got up to 880 something with Detective Comics, and I guess 980 something with Action Comics, and then there's 12 issues a year. So next year, don't be shocked if there is a Detective Comics 900 and an Action Comics 1000.
Yeah. All right. That makes a lot. You're probably right.
Yeah. I mean, everybody got really upset about it, but...
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not alone. No, that's the first time I've shared that.
That was one of the first things that people called out. And they said, how dare you destroy this history? That's it. I'm only buying 2 copies, one for myself to read and one for the bag instead of 3 copies.
What else did you like?
What did I like?
I'll tell you what I like. Well, what else did you like?
Oh, thank you.
Then we'll go away.
Animal Man.
That's what I was going to say!
Yeah. Oh, you liked Animal Man.
I loved Animal Man.
Awesome.
That was really
That's
good.
definitely... the best title that's come out so far.
Again, Pat was we were talking, he said that this might be a good time to start reading comics because you can really get it on the ground floor. And I said I'd ask you what your recommendations were. But mine was Animal Man based on the 10 or 11 I read.
Yeah. Animal Man is great. It's really easy to get into. There's a huge text piece right at the beginning, but it's cool and it's fun and it plays into the issue.
And it's part of it looks like it's from The Believer, which is the McSweeney's magazine, which is, I thought, a very clever
It's great.
touch.
It has a completely different tone. Travel Foreman's art in the issue starts off really flat and bland, but on purpose, and it's really interesting to look at, and then it very quickly becomes horrific. And the whole issue, I think there's at least 3 pages in there that are jaw-dropping, just where you get to that splash page, where you turn the page, suddenly something happens, and you go, what is going on? And you want to know more about what's going on.
Again, it was kind of hard for me to read single-issue comics. That's not something I've done in a long time, and a lot of them felt very slight. And I get to the end and I think, especially when you're reading a digital copy where you're not actually getting to the back of the book. So I was like, oh, that's it. That's all that happened. But Animal Man was one that like really felt like a good TV pilot.
This is actually, I feel like we've been talking negatively about a lot of the stuff with the DC, but this is one of the good things, one of the best things I think that's actually come out of the relaunch, is DC is really allowing its writers to pace out stories in different ways.
That's cool.
So instead of saying, okay, we're going to write 6 issues, that's going to be collected in a trade, that's how we're doing it. Some people are still doing that, but a lot more people are saying, okay, I'm going to write 2 or 3 issue arcs. Or alternately, I'm going to write for the single issue. There's going to be an ongoing story, but I'm going to make sure you get a full story or full meal in this one issue, which it hasn't happened with all of them. But one thing that I've noticed, which is, I think, totally on purpose, with almost every single issue that's come out of DC's New 52, beyond the little pink lady that showed up and everything, there's a little bit of intro of the character in the first couple of pages where they're talking about themselves, where they say something like, my name is Buddy Baker, but everybody knows me as Animal Man. Right. And then there's a 1 or 2 page splash of them jumping off a rooftop or doing something actiony. Yeah. And then there's always a cliffhanger page that's shocking at the end. Yeah. And I actually think that's good. You know, it's repetitive if you read 12 or 24 of them in a row, but one by one, if you have a casual comic book fan come into the store and say, I'll pick up this one issue of Cyborg #1, which weirdly, even though he's on the Justice League, they don't have a Cyborg #1. But if they pick that up, you're getting an intro to the character and you're going to understand what's going on in the series right from the first issue. So that's a smart, good thing to do.
Who else is out there? You know which one I liked? I liked Detective Comics. I thought Detective Comics was really good.
That was Tony Daniel upping his game.
And he's a writer/artist, which I always think is cool when the same
he's a
guy's doing
writer/artist. Honestly, super nice guy, again, but his work on Batman has been okay. You know, it's been sort of unspectacular. It hasn't been bad. It hasn't been good. This was awesome. Batman versus Joker fight. The last page is crazy.
Yeah. I maybe want to pick up. That was one of the few where I really wanted to pick up the second issue.
Yeah. What else actually made you want to pick up the second issue? I'm curious.
Definitely Animal Man. Definitely Detective Comics. Justice League was pretty good. I think it was mostly the art doing the heavy lifting there. I could look at another book of that. Those were probably the big ones. I read, out of curiosity, I picked up some. Oh, you know what was good? OMAC. I read OMAC.
Yes.
OMAC was kind of cool.
That is a huge surprise.
Yeah. I tried to pick a few that I like Green Lantern and Green Arrow and Batman. But I tried to pick a few random ones, too. And OMAC was one of them, and I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah. OMAC, the thing about that.
Not about the Legends of the Hidden Temple announcer.
Yes. Wow, that good ref. That's actually co-written by Dan DiDio, who's the co-publisher of DC Comics.
Which is an executive job.
Yes. And he wrote a not particularly good run on Outsiders, which is another title from DC. Plus, a lot of people, because he's the co-publisher, don't like him at all. I think he's a totally fine guy. But this was totally fun. It was just smashing and crazy characters nonstop.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable. The thing that was nice about that was every single character was somebody out of what Jack Kirby created for the DC universe.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
But it didn't matter because even if you don't know who it is, hey, that lady is opening up her mouth and she has guns in it.
Yeah,
that's
was
awesome.
Cool.
So, yeah, OMAC was great. I'm trying to think about what else was good. Green Lantern #1 was surprisingly enjoyable.
I like the shift to Sinestro as the main character.
Yeah, that was a really good realignment, I think. That's something that worked pretty nicely because Green Lantern has... people have been buying it in droves, but honestly, it has not been good in years. And this was taking it back to basics and making it really enjoyable again.
I read Red Lanterns, which I was vaguely aware that they had invented 8 more different types of lanterns while I stopped reading comic books. So I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. And I glanced at a few Wikipedia pages here and there, but it was kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I picked up Red Lanterns. It was okay. That was one of the ones where it felt like when I got to the end, there wasn't enough there to make me want to read another one.
That has an interesting history just because that was a title that was supposed to launch before the relaunch.
Oh.
So that just kind of continued. That was kind of, hey, here's a spin-off of Green Lantern, and then they relaunched, and since they already had it ready, they kind of just threw it in with the new 52.
I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's a good intro to it, but it was kind of You know what? I don't know if you read these. Here's 2 of the crazier things that came out recently. Were Demon Knights, #1.
I did not. I considered it, but...
It's crazy. It's a bunch of crazy mystical heroes hanging out in a pub getting attacked by dinosaurs. So,
That sounds cool.
Fun.
I'm into that.
And there's so much stuff that happens in the issue with suddenly Berlin is jumping out and doing stuff, and then dinosaurs are attacking. There's demon babies screaming at people and things like that. But it's fun. If you like Justice League, but they're about magic and in medieval times. Another one that was actually cool, though not the greatest art, was Resurrection Man.
I didn't read that either.
Which, that's a really simple idea. It's a TV kind of idea where this guy, every time he dies, he comes back to life, but with a new power.
That's totally an 80s NBC show.
Well, it was, I don't know if it was 80s or it was 90s, but Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, who created it back then. And it never really caught on, but people love it, so they're bringing it back now.
Was it ever a TV show, or it was always...
I don't think so. It should have been. But it's a really fun issue because it's this very simple idea and they play it well and it has kind of a couple of dark twists in it. So it's enjoyable.
And as of this recording, which I think this will be out in only a week, but they're not all, as we're recording this, they're not all completely out yet. We haven't read all of them.
No, there's 2 or 3 more weeks of the first month of comics. The ones coming up that I'm super excited for, actually sitting right next to us in a pile.
We got to start wrapping things up. We got to unleash on those comic books.
Yeah, Wonder Woman #1 by Cliff Chiang and Brian Azzarello. Cliff Chiang's art is awesome. So good.
I'm looking. It's at the top of the stack, and I'm loving that cover.
Yeah.
What's the controversy with Wonder Woman's pants?
Oh my God, this is.
I know there was a thing with the TV show, which was a pilot and never got picked up.
The thing with the pants even affected the TV show.
Because the TV show they had Tara from Friday Night Lights. It's not a podcast unless I bring up both The Wire and Friday Night Lights. And she was going to play Wonder Woman, and there was this picture of her in pants, I think. Yeah. The pants were bad or the pants were good? I don't remember.
They were bad.
The pants were bad.
Pants, and Wonder Woman does not wear pants, you guys.
Yeah.
There's that's the whole thing, is that Wonder Woman traditionally doesn't wear pants. But who cares?
It's tradition.
They actually rebooted Wonder Woman a year and a half ago. So that now she was wearing pants and not a costume.
That was the only difference, is that now she wore pants.
Yeah. Well, she was also younger and street smart and whatever. It was dumb. But so they rebooted her with pants. Everybody was upset. When they did the reboot, she still had pants. Everybody was still upset about the pants. So they took away the pants, which was just a recoloring job of changing her legs from black to flesh colored.
But now she's back. She is not wearing pants, and she's ready to mix it up with that lasso.
Yeah. You guys, it's going to be a great title because she's not wearing pants.
I realize now the thing that we forgot to plug at the beginning of the show is Comic Book Club, your show in New York, which would
right.
So this is not the only time you are going to talk about comics into a microphone this month.
No, I talk about DC's New 52 too much. Pretty much, Comic Book Club is every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. at the People's Improv Theater. Live show for an hour. We have comedians. We have comic book creators that come in, chat about stuff.
And you've had Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman? Have you had Neil Gaiman?
No, we had a picture of Neil Gaiman.
You had a picture, but Brian Michael Bendis, I remember, was there.
Yeah, Brian Michael Bendis. We've had Bill Hader, Seth Meyers have come on and geeked out about comic books. So it's a fun time.
Pat did it once.
Bill Hader, Seth Meyers, Brian Bendis, and Pat Castles.
So if you enjoyed Alex talking about comic books here, you should check out Comic Book Club. You should also probably check out Thor and the Warriors 4, which is available digitally. Maybe think about the guided view. Maybe you want to enjoy it in its true full form. Elephant Larry, Alex's baby. Don't stay away from that
check
one.
her out. You gotta check her out. She's dropping soon. I don't know what that means.
And we're doing this new thing where we follow up with people on the show after they've been on the show a few weeks later. So let's talk soon about how what kept that level up, if Animal Man stayed good, what faltered, and just kind of check in on the DC 50U in a few weeks.
Sounds good. I'll keep reading them.
Thanks so much, Alex.
Thank you.
Don't stop listening yet, because today, for a quick follow-up interview, we are on the phone with John Gabrus. How you doing, John?
I'm wonderful, Jeff. I'm on like day 3 of an awful hangover, but I'm handling it pretty well.
You were in Germany for your bachelor party for Oktoberfest, correct?
Yes, that is correct. 4 days of more drinking than I've done since I was like 18. And I'm too old to be handling that now.
Did anything nerdy happen while you were there? Anything we can talk about?
Oh, all right. I forgot. You're a nerd. How quickly I forget. No, nothing particularly nerdy. It was very meatheady. I'm like, I run the gamut between those two worlds. And this one was more my the yang side of the yin and yang of Gabrus.
Well, let's get
That was the most presumptuous thing I've ever said about myself.
John, of course, you may remember, way back from episode 2, we talked about Game of Thrones. Since then, I have read books 2 and 3 of Game of Thrones. I feel like it's so potentially spoiler heavy. I mean, we're talking about not just like next week's episode, we're talking about the next 2 years of the TV show. I don't even think we can talk about it here. I don't even think there's a spoiler warning sufficient enough.
No, my problem is that I've read all the books, so I might get a little confused and spoil season 6 by accident. We don't want
Let's
that.
just skip over that. Let's talk about this TV show you're doing now.
Okay.
The show is called The Substitute, and it's something of this ambush game show where you show up in a classroom, and all of a sudden it's a game show, and the high school kids are the contestants, and it's on MTV, and it's very funny. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much, Jeff. I'm glad, even though it's not directly, you're not our direct audience, I'm glad to see you're enjoying it. I guess direct audience would be high school kids and then friends of me. So maybe you are in the audience.
Is it fun going back to high school, like seeing that? Because the show kind of exposes high school dynamics sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, it's certainly weird to see it from like the zoomed out angle of like, holy crap, that was me. You know what I mean? Or like, oh shit, that was Brian from high school. Oh, that was so and so. It's like, and also high school kids are insane. They're driven by such a force of energy, just like a pure hormones, I think. I'll probably get fired from MTV for talking about this. But just every kid is like constant nervous energy, Imagine being in high school. I mean, this wouldn't have been a problem for me, but imagine having to be called up in front of your class and asked a question. If you get it wrong, like a guy screams, "You're out of here," like right in your face. I can't believe these kids lived through it.
There's one round of the show where basically you get it down to your top 5. Then one of those guys gets to move on. And then of the 4 people left, everyone in the class votes on who they want to represent them. And then the person they choose goes up against the person who already moved on. And if the person that the class chose, the people's champion, wins, then the class splits the money. And it's just the most high school moment where you are like, here are your 4 choices. Who's voting for this girl? And it's not even a secret ballot thing. People are just raising their hands in front of them.
It's like, who's the most popular to take on the smartest? It's like such a high school, like, 90210 episode. That's going to date me big time. I should do Degrassi so you have something to bounce back off of.
Well, maybe you're talking about the new 90210. There's someone from The Wire on that. I watched the episode. And there's someone from Degrassi on it, so I definitely watched the episode.
Oh, man, you don't have to justify why you watch that, dude. That's fine. It's crazy, like, the energy in the audience is insane. When someone wins $5,000, they sort of just politely clap. But when everyone splits the $5,000, which I don't know the math, but that comes up to like $260-something each, these kids go insane.
I haven't seen that happen yet in the episodes I watched. I only saw the one person take it, which feels like and everyone seemed nice and was congratulatory. But is there any bad blood after the cameras stop rolling where everyone's like, well, come on, you gonna split the money?
Yeah, there's like no bad blood, but there is clearly like everyone's like, I'm on TV, I should not look like an absolute jerk. But having done a bunch of those episodes, having done 20 episodes, when I see someone win for the class, holy shit, is that a different situation?
Is anyone have this attitude of, I'm too cool for this, I'm not going to participate? Because that'd be me in high school.
I know. That would have been me, too. I would have been like such a wise ass. But since my years of being wise ass, I can really cut down anyone who thinks they're too cool or too much of a smart ass to deal with it. I cut them immediately down. But also, people are surprisingly less cool when there's $5,000 on the line. Think about what you look like if you're at a place and they're throwing T-shirts into the audience. What do, right?
I go insane for
like
T-shirts. I don't know. I have money. I can buy T-shirts.
You go to the most primal version of yourself. It's like, I gotta get this goddamn T-shirt. You're like screaming your head off and shit.
You asked a question, because the first round is things you should know, and it's things I guess they were supposed to learn in class, and then it's things you do know, and it's a pop culture round. And there was a question about Harold and Kumar, and you followed up the question with this anecdote.
In the first Harold and Kumar movie, the title characters are desperately trying to get to what fast food restaurant? Miranda.
White Castle.
White Castle is correct! Moving on. And Lindsay, you are out. I one time ate 36 White Castle burgers on my own and passed out at my desk and was asked to leave work. True story.
Was that a true story?
I think the ask to leave was an embellishment, but my boss was like, you can go home if you want, which to me is asking me to leave.
Why did you eat 36 White Castle burgers?
Because I had gone straight through the night at Atlantic City and was up all night long, and then someone's like, we're going to get White Castle burgers. I was like, oh, cool, get me 30. And they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, just get me 30, it'll be fine. And then I ate my 30, and then a bunch of people were like, holy crap, we have a couple more over here, keep going. And then my body went into like sodium shutdown. It was just too much White Castle, and I just collapsed.
And you were working at the White House at the time.
Yeah, that was when I was Clinton's top aide.
What were you like in high school? Because obviously you have these opinions about comic books and Game of Thrones, but also you went to Oktoberfest for your bachelor party, and you can eat 30 White Castle burgers, and you do have this fascinating balance of meatheadedness and nerdness in your life.
Yeah, I'm the nerdiest meathead ever, or the strongest nerd. You know what I mean? I'm like torn in between the two.
But how did that net out when you were in high school?
Oh, in high school, I had like no real friends except for like two guys. But everyone just sort of thought I was funny and was like, all right, cool, we don't kick his ass. Because I played football, but I also played D&D from Friday after football practice straight through until Sunday night.
John, thanks so much for doing this. Everyone else, stay tuned for new episodes of the Jeff Rubin Show every Tuesday. You can hear about them on my Twitter. That is at Jeff Rubin Show. I'm doing this like fast because I'm on the phone with you. You know, I'm like I feel like I'm under pressure now.
Oh, it is so uncomfortable to listen to. But can just hurry up and finish this shit.
So there's jeffrubin.com, and you can so that's a blog. It's on Tumblr, and if you go there, you can sign up to get email alerts, Mom.
Ooh.
And what's my mom listened to an hour and a half of me and my friends talking about DC Comics. And what's the other, what am I forgetting? Oh, Facebook fan page. Of course, the Facebook fan page, and posting new stuff there all the time. John, thank you so much.
Don't be afraid to watch The Substitute every weekday at 4:30 and 7.
It's on every day at 4:30 and 7?
I think except Fridays, but who's going to actually turn on MTV on a Friday after school? So I figure I could just say every day. It's also repeating like crazy. I keep just accidentally watching myself.
And, of course, you can watch episodes online. Thank you, John. Thank you to Alex Zalben. And I'll talk to you guys next time.